All right, we're gonna try this again. Amazing, boy. I had it on the wrong wireless signal and messed up everything. But anyway, let me get back to this video. Well, let me start fresh because some of you guys didn't see the first part possibly. This video is, and I got two cameras going on at the same time. So hi YouTube family and hi Facebook family. All right, so I'm Pat from the Conflicts of Life. I want to do this video because many of you guys know there's some this major situation going on with Donald Trump, and I'm starting fresh, so if you're tuning back in, thank you for joining back in, but if you're fresh, stick with me. There's this major blow up that's going on for Steve Harvey right now because Steve Harvey was invited to the White House, well, not the White House, but to meet with Donald Trump about housing, right? And so because he was invited to come there and talk, and I just got done listening to his interview on his own radio show talking about why he did it, because everybody's calling him a Coons and all these different names, you know. But at the end of the day, I really was listening to what he said, and I thought about relationships and how they function today. And I said, man, is this not a picture of what happens in relationships today? So let me give you a little background if you don't know. Basically, what's going on, Donald Trump's team had supposedly invited Steve Harvey to come out to meet with Donald Trump to talk about different issues. And one of the main issues is, what do the less affluent communities need? And so Steve Harvey met with them. They chit chat. According to Steve Harvey, immediately when Steve Harvey said, "Hey, we need some help in certain communities, you know, the unfortunate communities." According to Steve Harvey, he said to Donald Trump, immediately put him on the phone with Ben Carson, who's supposed to be over the Housing and Urban Development, HUD for short. And therefore, they had a conversation and things appear to possibly be moving to benefit the community, especially per se the African American community. Now, whether any of that is true or not, that's not my point. Here's what bothered me about it. A lot of people started giving Steve Harvey a lot of backlash about it, including one of the people, D.L Hughley. And I'm saying to myself, D.L Hughley, I just watched a video with you sitting in the press room of the White House yourself, talking about, oh, we're about to meet for issues. So what's the difference between Steve Harvey meeting with the next coming president to talk about issues and you sitting in and having a conversation to be able to address issues? I mean, I don't see the difference. But that made me think about it. I said, you know what, Pat, that's what's wrong with relationships today. A lot of relationships are falling apart due to poor communication. Now, I want to be careful when I say this, and I want to explain this to you guys because the way I teach it is different from what a lot of people perceive. Here's the difference. A lot of you guys are saying, well, in my relationship, I'm having communication issues. That's not your problem. Hear me good. Communication is not your problem. You're having a whole lot of communication, not only with or without your spouse, but with your friends, your fellow advisors, such as family or whoever else who's giving you advice, but it's not working, is it? All right, so what's the problem? The problem is not your communication, but it's your conversation. There's a big difference between the two. Let me help you understand what I mean. Let's go back to what we're seeing right now. Apparently, there was conversation, meaning that there was back and forth dialogue between Donald Trump and Steve Harvey to try to come to an understanding of how they can resolve a particular issue. And in this situation, it's the housing situation. But when you look at how the media and people on social media and everywhere else is downplaying the situation and really just blowing Steve Harvey's name up for even trying to make a difference, that is what you call communication. So what do I mean by that? What's the difference? All right, here's the difference. When you're trying to have when you're having communication is basically this. One person is just sharing what they think, and that's it. And you wonder why you're having problems in your relationship. For an example, I'm going to go back to a popular name. Now, there was a lot of people who did it, but I just seen D.L Hughley's multiple videos about it. So I'm just using him as an example. And I don't have issue with Donald Trump, D.L Hughley, or Steve Harvey. I'm just saying it clear, so don't blow me up about that. But what I'm saying, I just want to show you how this situation can get out of hand in relationships if you keep doing the same thing. So my question would have been to D.L Hughley. D.L Hughley, you're just all over the media talking about who was supposed to be your friend, Steve Harvey, Kings of Comedy, And here you are blowing him up and throwing him down. Did you get on the phone with Steve Harvey and ask him, hey, what was the nature of the meeting? What did you guys actually talk about? What was your motive for meeting with the guy that I personally don't like? Watch this. I personally don't like Donald Trump, and you met with him. What was the nature of that conversation? And give Steve Harvey the opportunity to respond. But that's not what happens, do it? And that sounds like relationships. You know, hey, I'm trying to talk to you. We're trying to resolve things. Give me a chance to say my piece before you keep going off on me. Can I at least respond to give you my side of the story so we can come to an understanding? That is what conversation is. You share your side, I share my side, but we do it in a way that we can each understand where the other person is coming from. But I don't think that's what's taking place. So now you have D.L Hughley, who's his supposed to be friend. That bothers me. You're supposed to be friend. Did you guys have a one-on-one conversation so that he can explain to you, hey man, no, I'm not a Donald Trump fan or this and that and blah, blah, blah. But hey, they invited me to talk about how, what's needed in the unfortunate community. So, hey, if that opportunity came up, I'm not going to pass it up. I'm going to say, hey, in the African-American communities, in the less fortunate communities, here's what we need. And apparently Donald Trump and Steve Harvey had a conversation because, hey, immediately when Steve Harvey said, this is what we need, this is what I hope for, he put him on the phone and things started happening. But look at what happened with D.L Hughley, who's supposed to be his friend. What happened? There's no communication. There's fallout. Isn't that how relationships are today? Amazing. So let me give you guys this tip. If you want to have effective, quote unquote, communication issues, we're having communication. No, you're having conversation issues. Why? Because you guys are not talking in a way where each person can understand. Right? So here's the difference. In communication, you say your piece, and then that's that. It doesn't matter whether the other person understood you or not. You just felt good because you said it. And there's multiple ways to communicate. Number one is like I'm doing now. I'm just saying my piece. It's not like I'm listening to you respond to me. So I'm saying everything that's on my mind. Number two, the second problem is with communication. Look at how I'm wiggling my neck and moving my finger. You can use body language, which doesn't give the person a chance to respond to what you're objecting to. That's another issue why we're having relationship issues. Now, what is the difference between that and conversation? Here's where it gets good, and this is what I teach. If you're going to have a conversation, here's what a conversation looks like. You might want to write this down. When you're having a conversation, here's the key. Conversation is nothing more than words, or let me back it up, ideas placed into the vehicle of words that leaves your mouth and enters into the ear of the other person so that they can understand where you're coming from. Let me say that again, because that alone will fix a whole lot of relationships. You're not having conversations, you're having communication, which is one-sided. You need to make it in a way where the other person can understand and have an opportunity to respond. So let's go over this again. Words are thoughts placed into the vehicle of your mouth and then enters into the ear of the person who you're expecting some type of response from. And if you're going to expect some type of response, make sure your ideas and your words come out and are projected in a way that they can understand you, and then hush up your lips so that they can have an opportunity to respond. Then it's your turn to sit back, allow them to use their thoughts, place them into the vehicle of words, and place them into your ears. Now, when you have this back and forth, not only of sharing of words, but also of sharing of ideas, and now you're listening back and forth, your conversation is back and forth. Why? Because I'm trying to understand your side, you're trying to understand my side. Now we're trying to work together to resolve this issue. That alone will fix a whole lot of relationships, believe it or not. So don't be in a Steve Harvey, Donald Trump situation. And then lastly, I got to throw this one in as a bonus. Some of you guys are in a bad situation because you're doing like the media is doing. The media is doing. They weren't in the room they don't have a clue what was being said, but they have all these opinions about what you should and should not do. He ain't had no business up in that room. However, if you were invited to come and speak to make a difference in your community, you're telling me you would not show up? I'm not saying. Okay, now again, who's right or who's wrong is irrelevant to me. The point is, Before you listen to people who don't know all the facts, make sure to be aware of who's talking into your ear. Let me give you an example. You guys are having a relationship challenge. Here we go. Girl, I wouldn't talk to him no more. I'd leave him alone. But he's calling you saying, hey, I think we have a little misunderstanding. Can we talk about it? Can we go to dinner? I would love to just talk about it. Girl, I wouldn't do that. Call him back. No, I ain't talking to you. We ain't got nothing to talk about. We ain't got nothing to talk about. Okay? And I'm sorry about the silly face, but that's what we do. Or, for guys, man, you know what, man? There's so many women out here, man. You ain't got to put up with that. Why you won't even talk to her? And it could have been a small situation, but you're blowing it up out of control because you're listening to your own personal media team, which could be your friends, your coworkers, your family, or anybody else who may be just simply jealous of your relationship. So at the end of the day, you guys, let's pay attention to how we're actually having these conversations. Are you conversating with the right people? Are you talking too much to your media team, or are you having a conversation to resolve your relationship issues? This is Pat Murphy from The Conflicts of Life. Hit me up at info@theconflictsoflife@gmail. I'm sorry. We have a new email, sorry. info@theconflictsoflife.org, because our new website is up. Theconflictsoflife.org is up. Plenty of resources on there. I would love to hear some feedback on this one. I know this one, some people may agree with me, may not disagree, may disagree with me. I don't know. I would love to hear from you. So my YouTube family and my Facebook family, thank you. Please make sure to respond back. And if you're on the Facebook, leave a comment below and share this if you think this was useful. Because again, I'm not telling you whether Donald Trump was right, Steve Harvey was right. I really don't care. The point is, I'm just seeing how this is affecting people's communication issues in the relationships across the board, whether in business or in the bedroom. Okay? Have a good evening, everybody. Pat Murphy, hit me up. info@theconflictsoflife.org or Facebook comment.